So this is pre-con Sunday. I am Dr. Trek, Larry Dimachek, and split. Oh, you know what? We were going to do this.
So much better.
And sharing my frame is
Laurie Ulster of Trek Movie and the All Access Star Trek podcast.
it's all access. I may have said shuttlepod because you all have so many podcasts. I'm confused.
Yeah, well, because we have a great podcast called The Shuttle Pod
Yeah.
with Kayla and Brian and Matt and Jared on it.
Yes, which is not all access, but you are. Yours is. No,
Yes.
no, wait. So, hey everybody. So it's a day of pre-con conning, which I think is mostly San Diego, but we can also throw a shout out to everybody going to San Diego. Laurie, what's on your agenda? What are you doing? I know that we're here ostensibly to talk about Landing Party, which is Con Eve, and it is. You want to see something slickola? Can I do this?
Do it. Bring it.
You know what? I'm just going to go full blast. Bam,
Bam.
bam. Let me bring it down a minute. Yeah, let me do this. Boom. There we are. Now you can see the whole thing. Hey, everybody. It's the 13th Landing Party. The first year or two, it was called the Spock Star Party. But we decided Landing Party was too good to pass up. And now there's a whole con, I think, called Landing Party somewhere. I stole the name, but it's okay.
It's a good name. And this is something, was this you and John Champion and Kayla, or you and John Champion started it? What's the history of this?
So the history of this is the last year at the last year at the Hilton, when the experience had closed, but it with the contract that Creation had with the old Las Vegas Hilton was in its last year, and they were not going to renew it because the experience was gone. And over by the Space Quest bar, which you could still go hang out, that's where everybody was spiritual home was over there, even though the Quarks and everything experience was walled off and closed. And there's an area opposite that was just lounge chairs, and I have pictures where we thought on the Sunday night there was nothing ever happened on Sunday night back in those days, and it was even before Bob Picardo's charity auction, which used to be the Sunday night thing before the Rat Pack took over.
Right.
Long story, no shorter. One night when it was like the early years of everybody having their own thing and their own brands and their own stuff, and we just thought it was silly for Sunday night to just kind of ooze away. So we just got together and we didn't have a name. We just said we'll do some trivia, and John was doing a show out of Chicago then called DVD Geeks, where they got DVDs to review, and I had prizes. And I got with later on, she was known for Bye Bye Robot, but Chris and Charity had a podcast news site then called Subspace Communications, and that was the original origins of it. And I still have a few pictures of us standing up doing some trivia and people just sitting in chairs. There was very little drinking.
That's changed.
That was changed, but that was like Sunday night as everybody, it was like a dead dog party in the old days ways. And we just did that. And then the next year, Brian Wilkins got involved from Trek News and said, everybody was at the Rio. There was an Irish pub there for a while, for the 1 year. And it was excellent and a place to do this. And we had a crowded thing. We called it, he was calling it Spock Star and Party Like a Spock Star. And that's what it was for a year or two while Brian was part of it. But then it was DVD Geeks, and it was Larry's Trekland blog, and Trek News, and that was it for a couple of years. And then Brian moved back east, and after that, it was all those people, but a few others got involved. And by then, I think Trek Movie got involved. We were looking for sponsors just for prizes because it's very low key.
Right.
So there's your brief. So yeah. So then by the mid, and everybody by then was congregating at Masquerade. That was, and we decided, he had already decided when we lost the Irish pub, which was great indoors. I was mad because there was no other place to do it. And Masquerade was like a big arena stage with like a wall and nothing. And I was worried about competing with all the ambient sound and the stupid parade in the sky. But luckily that went away and we just moved to Masquerade, and it's been happily ever after ever since.
There you go. And that was my first exposure to Star Trek Las Vegas, was that night I arrived and went right into the landing party with Kayla. Like
Wow. What?
2 years ago.
Oh,
This will
really?
be
Okay.
this will only be my third time going.
Well, and so you came in after pandemic.
I came in like the first one. Yeah. Like
The
the
one
first
where
one.
everybody was a little off kilter and masking, and it was like, well,
Yep.
this feels normal, but it felt like slow motion, and it was strange.
It was an interesting introduction to the whole thing. And I thought this year, because we're back at the Rio, because last year was Bally's, and I thought, oh, this is going to be what it's usually like. And now, of course, it's not going to be what it's usually like.
Well, hold on that thought. Hold on the thought. I'm going to go ahead and make it us. Yay. Okay. So everybody saw the thing.
It's also my.
We've got the title up here too. So there's that. We got the title up there. Well, you just blew me away. So, and it's so weird. Like the years were kind of like the same for many years. Like the last major hiccup was when the experience closed. It feels like for Vegas Con. Now,
Right.
everybody who's been, if some of you are so desperate, excuse me, if some of you are such fans, you've been watching the VTC live feed all day. You saw me talking with Ryan and Sirach earlier, and I gave you way too much history on Las Vegas. But it really feels like there was no real major hiccup after the big shutdown of the experience. And then things moved from the Hilton to the Rio, where it's been since 2011, I think. Yes, 2011. It's been at the Rio since 2011, and nothing has really changed much. And it's all been, people know the iBar, and they know Shutters, and they know the Masquerade, and they know how they want either the Masquerade Tower or the Ipanema Tower, or they stay at the Gold Coast, and they know, everybody has their thing.
Yeah.
And yeah. So first we have the pandemic, which blows everybody up, and then we have the weird one back, and then Bally's. And so for you to hear that that's how you came in just blows me away. But congratulations, you're hopefully about to have your first real one. Unless that whole actor thing, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that is what I'm talking about. I mean, I think it's
wait, who's with you there?
Oh, that's Gilbert. This is Gilbert.
Do you have a Sullivan running around? Or?
No, just a Gilbert.
Oh, okay.
Gilbert goes solo. Yes, so the actor situation is interesting. My big concern, I was actually worried they might cancel the whole shebang, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Which could, yeah. I'm thinking, good Lord, if San Diego with its Hall H thing survives and goes, but San Diego Comic-Con has other facets besides high-end celebrities with high-end film and TV projects. I mean, like,
right.
They've got the comic in the name,
Right.
But Vegas is the actors.
It's very dependent on the actors and writers. We always love hearing from writers, and they definitely can't come on and do that either. But, the last thing, I've been following Twitter, and it looks like they are definitely trying to work out something about sci-fi conventions with SAG-AFTRA.
Well, I wanted to get into this because for some reason, Ryan and Sirach and the gang gave us an hour. So we should talk about
the fools.
The fools. But you know what we actually have? Well, it's not breaking news, but it's like every day brings another wrinkle to this. So I want to get into this, but maybe we should back up and look at our title here. So I'm glad you've had a couple of years in various venues to see what Landing Party is.
Yeah, no, it was like my first, as someone who I'm never surrounded by other Star Trek fans unless I'm with the Trek movie gang, and we all live in different places. So this is where we all get together. I never walk into an environment where I'm immersed in people who love Star Trek, can answer questions, want to, think it's fun, and want the prizes. So that introduction to me, the Landing Party is a great introduction to the convention, I think, for anyone new or experienced.
I did not know that little detail about you, Laurie. So that was awesome. Because to me, everything has felt off kilter. Like we had it was good to be back that first year, but it was still off kilter. Like we were way down in number and everybody was masking. We were all like taking them off, and
the masking.
The worst thing was to have national news go, thousands die of COVID outbreak at Star Trek convention.
Yeah.
It would be like worse than the cruise. I was always that last cruise that was coming in just
right before.
Yeah. I was like, please God, don't let there be an outbreak on the ship and have all the national headlines be COVID outbreak kills millions of Star Trek. So, Dr. McCoy cannot save them, or
Right.
something. So anyway, we got through that, and then the next year to go, okay, now we're back in, it's Bally's. And it was like, and I didn't mean to be mean, but there were tons of first-time people last year at Bally's. And I kept going, I'm glad you're having a good time. Like, I would never, douse anybody's parade, but it's like, just come back next year to come to a real one. So I keep trying not to go to the actors yet, but I'm hoping we're there and we make good use of whatever it is, whatever the hell rules we're supposed to be under or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Armin had posted on Twitter like about 4 hours ago. And this is what he said. He said, Michelle Hurd, as a member of the SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee, helped carve out a dispensation for actors to attend sci-fi conventions as long as certain conditions are met by the conventions. If you're going to STLV, please do go, but expect some differences.
Yes, and I don't have it called up here, but basically what they've hashed out is, I guess we're going to talk about this now.
I feel like people want to, I mean, you tell us in the chat, but I assume people want to know this stuff because they want to know what to expect.
Hey, chat folks. Yes, I'm only doing, normally on my Tuesdays live, I'll do I'll do Facebook and Twitch too, but I'm only doing YouTube. So if you're not hearing me say that, then you don't know. But all the advanced promo just had the link here to YouTube. But I'm so used to like not monitoring the chat in real time until I get ready to look at the chat. But if you're looking at it too, help me out here. I
think the thing, Marina,
if you see something, tell me the timestamp because then I can pop it on the screen.
Okay, I see Marina at 19:45:24, and I think
Marina, what does she know?
Dracorex is what she goes by, and I think she makes a good point, which is like, some actors are going to just cancel it because they're uncomfortable with the whole thing, and I don't think any of us would blame any of them.
Wait, what's your timestamp say?
19:45:24. I'm East Coast. I don't know if that affects.
Oh, well, no, I'm getting 16, but that's weird. Mine's all say 16.
That would make sense. Yeah, because I'm in New York.
Oh, that's right. Of course. What was the minutes?
45:24.
Oh, there she is. Hey, Marina.
Yeah. Hi, Marina.
We will probably saw some guest cancellation circumstances related or not. I'll never blame any actors who decide to cancel. See, that's the thing. It's like, what about, nobody wants to do a bad thing. Nobody wants to be unsolidaritous.
That's the word.
That's the word. It is now, buddy, after I went to that trouble. But it's just like, what are the definitions? See, and I have no room for the fans who are angry about it. I mean, please recognize it's just a confusing time. I think part of the problem is, and I'm so glad Michelle Hurd waded into this. I'm so glad she was on the negotiation.
Yes.
And was in a place where she could jump in, because for billions of years, it's been Armin. Armin was on the labor committee for years and years and years and years. And if there was any SAG or even union thing in general, he would not only be in there pitching, such the antithesis of Quark, but then, but he was the go-to, and that's what he plunged in. And and Anson Mount even got in also and tried to calm waters and then said, it's confusing. Hold on.
Nobody knows. I think that's the thing, is they start posting and then they realize we don't really know, and they have to try to work it out because they can't come on and talk about Star Trek like the shows.
Well, you see, and here's the thing. In the beginning, I thought it made total sense that all the current actors wouldn't talk about the current show, which was maddening, but that was the thing. But anybody who was from a legacy show that, nothing, Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, much less, Voyager and TNG and TOS, none of that is going to be affected by anything that happens in the contract talks. If it stays the same or changes some way, that is not going to affect the money they make, sadly, because, the original series cast, I've been saying this all week, that was what was so crappy about the 70s when Star Trek blew up for the first time, but they were still under their old 60s contracts where they would get paid for 2 reruns because, I'm sorry, what is syndication? What are
yeah.
So they became, like demigods, but they could barely pay their rent that decade. And that's why the movies were so important to them, and then conventions later. But that's why they tried to, so I just thought, well, it's going to affect all, it'll affect the Michelles and everybody else of the world, but the legacy stars aren't. And then they come out and say, no, it's everything. And then
it's everything. Like, I saw someone asking an actress from Buffy, like, can you talk about Buffy? And she said, nope. Mm-hmm. So it gets really interesting there.
Michelle, aside from her tweeting and looking, has put out some good some good little video short bits. And I've said for years with the current wave now, go follow not just the actors, but follow all the creatives and the producers and the writers
Yes.
and the visual effects and the art staff and everybody. Follow their Instagram and a Twitter if they have one or whatever. But she's been Michelle on her own or got swept up in some other videos live talking about this. And her thing that I didn't realize, the way the whole part, so much of this is about streaming.
Yes.
It's become the thing that blew up and nobody has adjusted to it yet. And the actors all need to, and the writers
too are saying like it's our work.
But the corporate bosses are totally happy for everything to stay chaotic and hidden and mysterious.
Yep.
Because they love to say the last time the writers and the actors were on strike together was 1960. And you know what that was over? It was Lucy and Desi created the rerun. And suddenly reruns were going out and nobody was getting paid. And they're like, hey, we should get paid for it. The whole concept of being paid for reruns was a new thing. And a lot of new stuff was, the new tech of TV was happening. And that double strike was to basically set the groundwork for what we have. And since then, the inflection points were about all the new tech, like syndication and then satellite and cable and DVD and tape sales. And then and stream. This is the one about streaming.
Right. It's happening again. And the industry just has to be able to shift, and they don't want to, because they make the most amount of money if they don't shift anything. And it's a model that doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, there is no model. I mean, the model doesn't exist yet. They need the model. But what's different this time also is, on top of that, of course, they never want to give up any. They have to be pried out of it. That's happened every time. And again, the last big one, why was it a double strike? It was this first big paradigm of TV. Oh, the rerun. But what's different about then and everything since is now the studios aren't the old boys that they deal with every day. Now the new tech, airheads they're all Wall Street driven, financial driven, where it's all about how much did you make last quarter. It's not about how many hits did you have and how many misses. It's like, are you making more money, however you have to pry it out of people, than last year? It's not about just, inflation takes over. Did you have hit shows? It's that. And that's complicating the whole, we changed, the world changed. We need to change with it. How are you going to pay us in the new world? Well, we don't want to pay you anything. Oh, you know what? We messed up this whole streaming thing. It's been a mistake. We're going to back off now. Sorry. Bye. You're like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Sorry. So that's what's the double. And then you've got AI on top of that.
Right. There's so many. So then the big thing, just to bring it back to the convention, is like, will people get permission to come? Because nobody wants, even if it's like legally okay to come according to guild rules, nobody wants the guild to be upset with them, and everybody wants to support their union. So if they can arrange a thing where they go, here are the rules, you can come, we won't be mad at you, it's all good. The question is like, what can creation do that's fun and good with all of these people, with only about 2 weeks to turn it around? Because I've never been on the cruise, but I see the videos and I'm like, they do so many fun, like game show things and workshops with people, and how much, like, to suddenly pull that together is a pretty big shift, especially because I think it'll be another week before everybody knows if they're coming.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say that, I mean, we have to move on from where we are. And you know what? There's nothing that says this won't be in flux anyway. And once again, no matter what the actors are doing, come to the landing party on Con Eve on Wednesday. But
I say come anyway. Like, even if they can't come, we're all still, the whole Trek movie gang is absolutely still going. We're doing a panel, maybe more. There are lots of panels that don't have those people on them, and lots of opportunities for fans to get together, like at the landing party, for example. So
we haven't even talked about it really and had our samples. But I have to say one more thing about this, because I think it's been interesting, because on one hand, my common sense went out the window when I was thinking the older, the legacy, I love saying legacy, not older, the legacy shows versus the current shows, because I could totally see them. Just like with Comic-Con, I was like, are they going to, early in the writer's strike, I said, so if this goes on, are you guys like going to boycott the whole, like picket the whole con? And somebody said, well, if that's what they decide, yeah. And which I thought was weird, because a lot of Comic-Con is comics and gaming and prose authors and artists that had nothing to do with big budget shows and writers and actors. And they would love to have their con back and get rid of the Hollywood. The San Diego economy doesn't
Yeah.
lose it, but the old school, comics and old school con people would go, "Yay, we'll get rid of all this fluff."
Yeah.
But but then I thought, well, surely maybe they can just segregate Hall H, because that's where all that really is affected. Although those studios have vendor booths and a studio corporate booths on the floor, on the exhibit floor too. So
Right.
whatever. And it was interesting to see that as all those studios like Netflix and all the rest were saying we're not going to go to Comic-Con, Paramount never did, and then finally they said we are. And
Right.
so when
they have a Hall H thing still planned, they have not taken it off the schedule.
Part of me is like, well, how many trailers can you play in 45 minutes or whatever? But also, if they bring in producers and directors and creatives, that would be, I don't think they are, but I would love that. They never get enough attention anyway.
I totally agree. I feel like we're always, look, I have to say, I think it's one of the things Paramount doesn't quite understand about fans, which is that we love all of those people. We love the actors, but we love all the people who make the show. We want to hear from them and talk to them. So yes, that's what you do, and that's what we do, and it's definitely like a big omission on their part. But I would also understand if those people were like, we're not going to go fill in for the actors. Like, how doesn't that undermine their whole?
Well, see, there is that, and I have a panel on Sunday at 1. It's wound up being two of the art directors from Picard, Kit Sterling and Liz Kozlowski.
Oh, nice.
And 1 o'clock on 24 ABC, everybody, Sunday at Comic-Con. But one of them, somebody along the way said, well, if the writers are still striking, even though he's not a writer, I would feel weird about crossing the picket.
Right.
And I was like, well, okay. But here's my thing. I think SAG, the union leadership, and everybody wants to support them. And it's not about that, but I think they were living in a conventions equal Comic-Con world.
Yes.
I think that's what happened. So when they said that, going to a convention, I think to the leadership means you're there on a studio dime supporting the project you're in. Right. And I think I don't think it's a secret that we have Star Trek and MediaCon, and we have signing shows where, like, some of the really veteran actors are there signing their photos from, a 50-year career or something.
Right.
I don't think that was top of mind, but here we're right in the middle of con season. And okay, Comic-Con, you can cut off the Hall H and still have but like the Vegas type shows and other cons where even if it's a mixed genre, a lot of their, especially veteran senior SAG members who aren't getting a current paycheck anyway from anything affected by the deal, I don't think they were thinking that, and they depend on that for income because they were in an era when they didn't have as good a residual deal as they do now. So I don't think they were thinking that it was actually going to harm them. And really the bottom line is all the studios now, they're not making a nickel off individual actors going for their legacy shows. You know what I mean?
Right. And those actors aren't being sent by the PR departments.
That's what I mean.
Of those, yeah. So
that's to do. They're not getting any benefits. So they're going on their own. And there was talk all about personal appearances and that kind of thing. But yeah. The other thing was, this just flew up, but I think somebody else just pointed out to me, my friend James Carwin just saw a bit about influencers. Like SAG was asking influencers not to talk about the shows. And I'm like, what? Like, number one, how do you have any control over that? But then I saw later on, there is a classification of SAG membership where you can be an influencer in SAG. I guess if your YouTube is big enough. I don't know.
Oh.
So now I guess maybe we're off the hook. But I wanted to say, excuse me, all those, all the shows, everything that we all do, and a lot of our friends that have YouTubes and podcasts, it's not just fans of, celeb service. It's like I talk about these issues all the time in Portal 47, our roundtables, and on out public every week we're talking and explaining. I had writers live with me on my anniversary show. I had Bill Wolkoff from Strange New Worlds. I did a 20-minute edited video explaining the issues. So It's like, and fans in general are a great. I don't know. I think they didn't. I mean, I think maybe now they do, and maybe Michelle and the pushback on Twitter, and I don't know of all the socials they're watching and monitoring. I don't know how much our Star Trek bandwidth or the
Right.
Buffyverse or any of those legacy shows with fan bases. I don't know how much of that's registering, but I hope they went. Oh, it's more than just the Comic Cons. It's our elder members who depend on this income that none of this is going to affect. I wish it did. I wish it meant they get more money, but it doesn't mean they're going to get more money. And the fan base, the talkers among fans with the shows, are the ones who have been doing a lot of our legwork to explain the issues.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all. It's part of this is just that it's right this time of year, and it just happened.
Right. And that even the people very involved don't know how it's going to play out.
And I think some of the people who are very involved don't all know what's that's why I said I'm so glad Michelle is, since Armin's not there, we have a new generation, and Michelle
Yeah.
is the activist labor person
Oh,
who
she's
also
great.
brings her awareness of the world into that. And
she's been at all, like, I've been following her career actually since I'm just the actually person now. I've been following her career since she was on a soap opera in the like late 80s, early
wow.
90s. And I've watched her. I remember her doing commercials. I remember her doing the Glades when I was working at A&E. And I remember her doing SVU and like all these different shows. So she's been the unknown person, the extras person, the commercials person, and then the prestige show person. And she's experienced it all. And a lot of these people are fighting not just for themselves, but for all the people they know who are up and coming, who have to deal with all those challenges that are so much harder now than they were before.
And the writer strike we talked about, a lot of and God bless them, a lot of the senior writers and writer producers looking out for the mentoring that they do of the
yes.
And they've even invented this, pre-WGA hashtag. I wonder if they'd have a post-WGA. That would be like, we've been members for 3 years.
Yeah.
How about a post-WGA? But they're thinking about the whole system, and they're thinking about what they've done and protecting the legacy. But it's amazing watching the actors come up and talk history and say, look, we worked. That's why we had the double strike in 60. The issues were so in everybody's face. They were so existential. We had to do it. And then they've had peace and security for 50. They had to add the new thing each time, and they would bump heads about it, but it got done. And it's to act like this is not something that should just blow up and go away. Like, no, this is the latest new hiccup. And this is the first time that they've just not sat down, and they're not arguing about the numbers. They're arguing about whether they should even be talking about it.
Yes, exactly. About whether there needs to be a conversation, which obviously there does.
And not even about AI, but then to hear Michelle's, the writers talk about the writers' rooms and not getting paid and working in development. That's a specific thing to them. But the actors are talking about they're in a streaming little 10-episode show that doesn't keep them employed most of a year. And on top of that, it waits a year between dropping, and I did not know they were stuck.
Yes, because they're on some contract.
Thing.
Yeah,
that would be maddening. So so Laurie, better 2 landing parties. We should tell. So if you're not, I should tell everybody you should try to get to Vegas at least once. Hopefully you have a normal year. But everybody who was at Bally's, everybody who's going this year, who was there after COVID, it's all good. It's all awesome.
It's so much fun, and I was very hesitant to pull the trigger on the spending and the trip. And I have a family, and I'm leaving them because they mysteriously don't like Star Trek and all the stuff. And I decide, almost at the first trip, I was like, I need to find a way to do this every year. It's so much fun.
Well, it is, and it's not even it's even more so now to me, because in the old days, in the 80s and 90s, Creation they were little and chintzy between Creations cons and the fan cons that were out there that were Trek oriented, when Trek ruled the roost, before the Comic Cons were what they are now the last 15 years. But now the way things have evolved, Star Trek kicked all this off, but it's come around to where it's really the only all Trek con. Now, Shore Leave is still usually primarily Trek, but that's a smaller event, and it's back East Coast. There's very few all Trek, and there's nothing on the scale of Star Trek as an all Trek. It's all Trek all the time. You're not sharing the stage. Now, there's an Orville panel this year. That's awesome. And there's some overlap there, right? But from Brannon on down, but David Goodman. But well, David's not coming. David Goodman's too enmeshed with the WGA's
Right.
there. But it's the only place where you can come and be all Trek all the time and not have to share the bandwidth and the airspace with all the other million franchises.
Right.
So that makes it special right off the bat. And it's the only one left. It's like the last survivor that's this big, that's all Trek. And I don't want to short anybody else's con, but I think that's true.
No, I think that is true.
So Landing Party, we started it to have something on the opening night. We started it because everybody was coming up with their own little businesses and podcasts and pages and things. And we wanted to produce something and get everybody together. And it's not like you have to beat people to get them to go to Masquerade Bar at night at Vegas at the Rio, but it works out good. So I was digging. I still got a couple of, like, we come up with you have a team. So why don't you explain what the physical actual thing of Landing Party was?
I mean, I'm far from an expert on it, but what I know
2 years.
is 2 years. 2 years. It's a great gathering of Star Trek fans. There are trivia questions that you can answer in teams or by yourself, and there's no cheating. I know that much.
Mm-hmm. We go on phone patrol to make sure.
Right. And there are prizes that you get. And actually this year we have a whole bunch of what the prizes will include: Trek movie tote bags. I know you guys are excited. We got Trek movie tote bags.
Okay.
And here's a funny thing I'm throwing into some of the prizes this year, which is that I've been ordering Star Trek t-shirts from TeePublic, and when they mess up your size, they usually just send you a new one and you don't send it back. So I have ordered some great shirts like this one, a little City on the Edge of Forever.
Oh, that's great.
But this one fits me, but I have ones that didn't. So I have a stack of t-shirts, of very fun Star Trek t-shirts to add to the prize pack. So including one of my favorites, which is the Gamesters of Triskelion, feel thing where they had all their battles. That's just
So if I show this again, everybody who is a sponsor here puts in prizes. Trek Radio loans us their PA system, so that's their thing. But everybody else has prizes and fun stuff. Geek Nation Tours, of course, is my friend Terrace, and we do the big we haven't done it since 2016, and we're planning it again for next year, which is one of the things I'll be promoting. But they throw in some what are they called? Anyway, they have some prizes in the bags, and Trek Movie, and then Roddenberry, of course, all the Mission Log podcasts and everything, and Trek Files. And then my bunch, I throw in some freebies. Anyway, the prize bags are from the sponsors. So that's what, and we normally have 5. So don't worry about it. The cool thing is, yes, be a team, get people together, and then you can fight over who gets what out of the prize bags.
Yes.
But, there's usually 10, 15, 20 teams, and everybody's there. You're drinking. It's Wednesday night, and it's like 9 to 11. And if you're coming, a lot of people by that time are there. If they're coming for Thursday, a lot of people are in by then. So it's
right.
Yeah. And totally separate, but it's been synergistic. Ooh, there's a word. So there's and I think I know it is because they asked me to come by. And it's great. There is a newbies and solo travelers meetup, usually from like 7 to 9, and it will be again. Nice. So here's the thing I tell people as I encounter them during the year in my things or just randomly. If you're coming, people, and you'll see people get on like Shore Leaves, the convention experience Facebook page and podcast, but anywhere fans gather, you'll see, and talking about Vegas especially, you'll see people say, "This is my first year. I don't know what to expect. What should I do? Where should I?" A, those places are great for answering the questions, but B, I always tell everybody, you're only a stranger for the first 15, 20 minutes, because by then you've probably stood in a line and there's 10 people around you. And by the time you get through that line, you've got your first 10 new Trek friends. I mean, that's just the way it is. Don't you think?
Yes, no, absolutely. That was, for me, like one of the greatest things when the first year that I went was like, you can talk to everybody about everything. I mean, I came with my Trek movie gang, but it's like I met so many people. I feel like because I've been going, and because I've also been doing our podcast and doing more fan community things, I know so many more people. Like now I'm excited because I want to see, Anne Marie, who I'm seeing chat away in there, and the Sci-Fi Sisters, and like all these other people that I, have been listening to their podcasts and chatting with them and stuff. So I think, yeah, absolutely.
Well,
it's why it'll work, even if we're not star-studded, we're still going to have a great time.
Well, that's the tricky thing too. And if they're there, I want to talk about the con a little more. But just to say, if in fact we have a situation where the actors are at their tables signing photos of their headshots because they don't have headshots of all their roles.
Yeah, they can't do their characters.
Star Trek and not. So here's my 1980 headshot. Here's my 1990 headshot. Here's my 2000. Or if in the Q&As people are saying, we're back to the 70s again, and it's like, what's your favorite color? What was your brother's name? What did you do in college? Right. I mean, if we're back to the early days, that would be a little refreshing. I don't know how we're gonna finagle this, but I would just say there's enough stuff going on with fans, and we'll have behind the scenes. In fact, there's a whole bunch of behind the scenes folks that are going to be there who are free to talk about their stuff. The Hageman brothers and Aaron Walke are going to be there from Prodigy.
Which I didn't know Aaron was coming because he has a new baby.
A silent little person, and we're working on maybe. So there's the main stage, the big one. There's the secondary stage, which reminds me of a junior high cafetorium. I'm sorry, and then there's the very cool Roddenberry stage. And all the schedules are very much up. I mean, things are getting hammered out, but there's a lot of finagling going. I think John and Mission Log folks were on earlier, and John was talking about Roddenberry stage things.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going to be doing 3 or 4 of those. But some of these backstage folks, the great Dave Blass and Liz Kowski are going to be there. And I think they're trying to do something with John Eves. This is me talking off the top of my head. I think John's only there Friday. And so I'm like, we're trying to get things for Dave and Liz to do the other days. So everybody just hang on. The schedules always come late, but we're trying to do that. And not that I would wish this, but there's plenty of, and there's authors, there's tons of science guests.
Yeah, there's authors, there's science, there's so much. I mean, I know we're doing a State of Star Trek panel which we started last year.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many different topics, people, experts, Trexperts, and other people. Yeah.
And I have to do a shout out while we're thinking about it. And I should have had the graphic up. Amy's going to kill me, but Amy Imhoff and I are hosting, I guess this is the term I've seen people using it, a suite party on Saturday night, I think from 7 to 9 or 7 to 10. I should be up on this. Anyway, the tickets are $25. You can find it, but it's a fundraiser for basically for STEM and STEAM careers, women, young people, disadvantaged, people of color, to get people into the science, technology, engineering, math, and the arts. With a lot of science guests and some of our actor friends in a small environment. So I think we're over half sold on that. So again, it's a fundraiser for that. I'll put the link here in a minute, unless my ever-present friend and assistant Scott is in the chat and can put the URL over here, because I went from giving Will Rogers tours to the LA away team picnic to here. But that's an example. I've had a lot of people talking about all the events. See, this is so funny, Laurie. You were talking about your first year. I remember there were 10 years of Vegas where it was just the Vegas. The 1 year where it wasn't Creation, it was Slanted Fedora, and it was on anniversary weekend, and then Creation jumped them, even though they didn't need to because they went away. And ever since then, it's been Creation and the first weekend in August. And I guess they get the rooms cheaper because it's so hot. But that's when Trek Vegas has been. And for a long time, it was just, but I remember when social media came in, and the first time this jumped out at me on Facebook, and somebody said, hey, everybody, we stay at the Gold Coast, and there's a bowling alley at the Gold Coast. Would anybody like to form up teams, and we'll have a Star Trek bowling tournament? And that's nothing now. But in 2008 or so, I was like, oh my God, the sheep have taken over. Like, the sheep fans are no longer, everybody's become empowered.
Yeah.
And it's like, ever since then, everybody jumped up and said, oh, well, we can do this. We can do this. It's like, we don't have to just get our ticket and be herded from room to room.
Exactly.
And okay, that was the great days of social media when it was all promise and no evil downside. But that was a shift I saw and went, oh, so now we've come all this way where the actors do things on their own, and charities and things, and charity groups and nonprofits and fan groups, and then of course the podcast and the live streams and people getting together, and then charities come in and get fan
Well, I'm also part of the Trek Talks group, which is like Trek geeks and John Billingsley and John Champion.
Yes.
And a lot of people very involved in that. And there is going to be a Trektivism panel that if John Billingsley is there, he will definitely be on. I think if he's there, I think he's going to be at the landing party gathering also. But we're talking because it's all to raise money for the Hollywood Food Coalition.
Yes.
And so I'm part of that team also working on those. And also they want to talk about sort of Trek activism, aka Trektivism in general, because you have all these fans and everybody cares passionately about something, and you can really do some good in the world with whatever your cause and your passion is. And there are a lot of them.
And no specific events, but now I need to say this. So I'm on the advisory board, as with several other great people, both in Trek and in science, for the Nichelle Nichols Foundation.
Right. Kayla is also on that.
Yes. And it just got launched. Dr. David Williams from Arizona State, who's going to do some science panels, is on that. And lots more folks I should be thinking of.
Kara Brugman, I believe, is on it, and Kayla Iacovino. And I know Kayla just did a talk with Tim Russ for that, like a thing that people can go watch. So
I've done a couple months ago, I had Walter on as they do a monthly talk of some aspect of Nichelle's legacy and her influence. So I would throw everybody, in and out of convention season, every month there is a virtual presentation from the Nichelle Nichols Foundation. And sometimes it's more into her activist or her social justice side, or the empowering women and young people. Or sometimes we just sit and celebrate Nichelle and, what she, recruiting to diversify NASA. I mean, all the things that she did in her life, and just remembering, which is what was great to have Walter with. And part of your time with Tim was. So yes, in fact, there'll be some Nichelle Nichols folks at our STEM fundraiser Saturday night too. So, but landing party basically is show up. You're there anyway. It's Con Eve. Everybody comes in there. If you're there by then, you're excited. You get with some friends, and sometimes people make teams out of people they just met. I've seen that happen.
That's so great. And so Star Trek.
Down at one point, we pass out. They say, everybody got your teams? It's literally like, we're still paper. Yep. Here's the sheet. Everybody got pens. We do a timer, phones off, no cheating on your Googling and memory alphaing. And they get 15 minutes. And then we madly score them. And then we come back and have the prizes. And it's simple, but it's kind of something that everybody's kind of learned. In fact, at a destination Star Trek in England, I went over with the Trekkie girls, and we did.
Nice.
See, that's that long English paper. Like their paper is longer than ours, the A10 or whatever it is. Anyway, so we took it over there, and of course, it was a hit too. It was weird because we were in a hotel. It was like sit-down tables. Europe has to be different with everything. And it was like I had to pivot around like this to see all the people at their little round tables with the overstuffed chairs. It was hysterical. But
awesome.
But it worked. So yes, so landing party, everybody. And you mentioned what Trek movie was doing. I've got a booth, so that'll be my HQ. We've got a lot of things planned that are still not. I may get to do another Trek Files live, which will be awesome. Last year we had Andrea Kindred. Or Andrea Richards.
I was going to say that to me was one of the highlights of last year. She is an incredible person. And to have a guest like that is something I never in my life thought I would meet her face to face. As someone who's been reading about her since I was 10 years old. And then there I was actually talking with her, buying her book and getting her to sign it and chatting with her. And the talk that she gave was extraordinary. Just what a woman.
And this woman that has the worlds of, hi, I was Gene Coon's personal assistant through how many people can talk about him, much less still be there to witness. We lost Dorothy Fontana,
right?
But Andy can still talk about the two Genes, her Gene and the Big Bird and Majel and the Office, Bob Justman and the Office staff at Desilu. and how she started off as the person that buzzed people in at the gate before Gene hired, and at the same time she's over here working with Dr. King and
Malcolm X. I mean,
yeah.
she is incredible. Yeah.
So anyway, I think and she had her I've got it here. It's been buried. So she sold her special edition, but her full edition is coming out soon. So just throwing that out. But that's the kind of experience you get to have. It's like you get to peel away all the promotional crap and go meet some amazing people who deserve more attention than they do. We've got, oh my God, we have talked for now. We've got 10 minutes. Should we look at the chat? Have you seen anything?
I see a lot of familiar names.
Oh, tons.
Make me very happy.
Yeah, I think between Trek Movies folks and my folks, thank you, Scott. Oh, here, he's putting this up. This is the link to her.
Oh, great.
So we did a panel for a full hour, which was amazing, up in the 26th floor.
I know that was a little crazy.
But she also recorded 2 live Trek Files with me, and we recorded them, which we'd never done, like videoed. So the video is out there, plus the regular episodes with her as we pull a document out of the files. And I think we talked about Gene Kuhn. We talked about a couple other things from 60s Trek. But this is the hour-long panel that we only recently got out there. So
last year, oh, hi, Yvette. Last year we did a State of Star Trek panel with a mixture of, it was Trek movies, so it was people from Shuttlepod and people from All Access, and we recorded it and turned it into a podcast. So, and now really the State of Star Trek is so much in flux and different. We have a lot of updates, which will be up to the minute updates. And then I'm not sure what else we're going to do, but we have some ideas. So
I don't know who had the idea, and if it was Tony himself, maybe from Trek Movie, for that idea, which is a great idea.
Yeah, that was Tony's. That was definitely Tony's idea. Yeah.
I had a feeling because, like 10 years ago, I was at a con and left my slide. This was when we still did slides, actual slides, and I left it behind. I had 300 people in Dallas to talk about, and I just started talking about things were changing, and people were not understanding why the movie era was different than the TV era.
Right.
And I talked and threw things out at people, but it was more a thing of people in the audience talking. And I had this idea to do that. So the state of, what did you call it? It's the state of
Star Trek.
The state of Star Trek.
Just looking at, like last year, because we're in such a different, last year it was all about, we have all these shows coming, it's going to be 12 months a year of Star Trek. Well, now it's a very different picture. And I think there's still reasons. I don't think it has to be gloomy. And I think there are reasons to look at how this could, there could be some positives. Of course, we're all waiting to hear about Prodigy and if that's been rescued, but we'll see that. We don't have an answer for.
I realized this last year, but you've made me remember it again now, because for the last 10 years or so, I've done a thing at conventions that I just called the State of the Trek. But my focus was, instead of having a panel of brainy people, I do it where it's like an audience thing, and I call it a fan forum, where I say, here's some issues, guys, take it and run with it. And it's kind of grew out of that accidental incident that I had where I didn't have visuals and stuff to talk about. So I turned it back on the audience, and you bring in the business side and the behind the scenes. Anyway, it's mainly for the audience to speak up and talk, and even if they crosstalk with each other.
Right.
And it's become a thing. So now I think it's become a thing now on the Roddenberry stage. It's what we close the convention with, but it's like where is everybody's head? And sometimes to be, because people have been able to absorb, and this will be doubly good year because we'll have seen what all this looked like in action.
Yeah.
But these last few years, like, there's been something really different about, first we had nothing for 2 years, and then, the pandemic, and then we're back, and everyone we went from like sociological medical experiment to, the throwback 80s con where you're in a high-rise hotel and people hate elevators or they just give up. And now we're back, but now we've got a strike. It's like every year something bizarrely different. But it will all start with the landing party, as usual, on Wednesday night, and everybody will be there. So John and I will be there hosting again, and we'll have everybody from Trek Movie who can make it, but and all our sponsors. But it's just that people just enjoy seeing each other. I mean, even though the pandemic is gone and we've all been mixing again, it's still, you can't describe that to people,
Yeah.
And the people who have, the funny thing is, like, it's a reunion, but I love hearing from the people because this isn't how I came to fandom. And there are a lot of people that came to fandom this way, but I still meet people online, and Vegas typically is the place you meet them face to face. So whether that's everybody.
Yeah, same. I mean, I had all kinds of people like that I'd only met online. And now I feel like I've seen, because I've gone to events now in New York, and I get to see the Sci-Fi Sisters, who I really hope are all, I don't know if they're all going to be there, but I hope they are. And more people. And so it's that is the highlight for sure, is that there are a bunch of people I haven't met in person that I'm looking forward to meeting.
And the people you've met who have you met online in the last year? Or who is somebody that's burst out and got a great new podcast or a great new live stream, and you've only watched it, and now you get to go up and say, hey, I really enjoy that, or you've got a good idea, or I love the way you do this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a couple of years ago, I met Neil Shirley online. We only started talking on Twitter. Then we became, like, I would say friends, but then we finally met in person in Vegas for the first time. And we are real friends now. Like, we can call each other on the phone and have conversations. But we both got to experience the Vegas convention as newbies at the same time and meeting each other, which felt like we'd known each other forever anyway. So all that stuff is just a blast.
So Trek Movie is going to be covering Madly as usual.
Yeah, although we'll see what there is to. Usually I'm like insanely live tweeting, and Kayla's taking gorgeous pictures, and we rope in John Spencer, and we have him helping. And there's like all this stuff. So we'll see how it goes and what there is to cover, but we'll cover it.
It won't be a shortage of coverage, because it'll be a whole new. If it goes the way we're thinking, unless something radically resettles, there'll always be something to cover. It's just a matter of like, what will it look like? But there'll be something going on. Yeah. But then you've got some panels too. So I'm going to be my table. Saturday evening, I'll have a Trekland Portal 47 a meetup. I call it my Tupperware party, but we'll have a thing with snacks and drinks. It'll probably be at the Denny's, at the Rio's Denny's. I call it the All-American Grill. But I'll have a meetup for people to come in. We'll have door prizes, some snacks. I'll talk about Portal and Trekland. We'll have some specials. We'll have some drawings for people that jump in on the day tours or Portal. We'll have prizes and drawings there. So I want to make sure and let everybody know about that. But my Portal 47 members, we have a meetup. I had some panels scheduled with Creation, but things are like in flux, and the Roddenberry schedule's not set yet. So I'll know it'll be all over the place. I know for sure I've got the Saturday evening event with Amy that I'm really proud of. And but there'll be lots of groups having things at night, and it'll
I don't know if you know the Star Trek Family on Facebook, which is an incredible group. Mark Sickle started this absolutely amazing group of very positive fandom.
Yes,
and they are also having a gathering on Thursday night.
I will be there at least part of the time for that too.
I'm hoping to do the same.
And of course, the Trek Geeks have their party on Friday night.
Yeah.
Look at this. We're giving everybody we can think of a shout out here. So I hope everybody appreciates it. So it's not just, your landing party is awesome. And I feel like we get to kick things off in a good way, but it's just been synergistic. This is what I started to say a while ago. So from 7 to 9, there's the newbies and solo travelers. For people, they do that so you can feel at ease. And what I always try to tell people is, yes, go. You'll feel so much better. But if you don't make it there, don't worry, because you walk in the door, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not good at talking to strangers. I'm the person who goes to a party and hides in the kitchen if I go to the party at all.
Well, the food is in the kitchen, but okay.
The food is there, and usually some little kids to play with, or a dog or something. But because adults are scary. But I feel like this is a place where you really can it's fine. Even if you're anxious about things, as so many of us are, it's fine.
Thankfully, there are no adults at a Star Trek convention. So
yes,
it's all good.
They're not allowed in.
Oh, I feel so. Chat folks, this is not Trekland Tuesdays live. I did not get into the chat and monitor. I don't know. Did you see anything else that's worth? We've only got a couple of minutes here, technically. Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Yeah, and I keep seeing Seventh Rule folks in there, and I love me some Seventh Rule.
Well, we have a lot of overlapping. This is what. So thank you, Marina. Influencers still have some kind of contractual SAG or segment, not just random fans. Yeah, which was a great sigh of relief. I think It's like,
Yeah, I mean, they
how
can't
would
say,
you
Laurie, you can't say Prodigy rules. Like, that's not going to happen.
I want to
So,
make a button that says we are all Prodigy fans now.
yes.
Because I think whether you watch Prodigy or not, and you should have been and should be,
And should be
but
buying the DVDs.
okay, my cadet Alice, my granddaughter and I do a YouTube.
I love that.
Yes, and yeah, we did a she did her first panel at SoonerCon. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
There were more adults than kids in the room, but it's okay. In the kids programming room. But I think I don't know. This is like a whole new topic that we should do on a discussion panel. But I think I saw online react when they took it. Not so much when they canceled, but when they took
pulled
it off the platform, when they pulled it, and I think I saw all of Star Trek World go, well, if they did it with Prodigy, they could do it with my favorite show, old or new. You know,
because they've here in America, they've taken it all back. Like there are places abroad where it's airing in different spots, and it's not
everybody.
And one person.
I have global folks, and everything I do, I try to have a time zone where we've got at least Europe involved, and it's good to stay honest and keep aware of that. But they got jerked around, all rolling out Paramount Plus. They lost shows for months.
And didn't know until the last minute in a lot of cases.
Right. Well, again, I think there's a lot of left hand, right hand not knowing what it's doing at times.
Right.
Especially in these days. But anyway, I just think that whether people were Prodigy viewers or fans or not, I think they suddenly got it. One of the realities of the current world is because, it's like a tax break speaks more volumes than a fan base,
because of who's making the decisions, which is not Alex Kurtzman, and it's not the PR people that you see on social. It's Wall Street people who are in charge of these. Think of them as corporations instead of networks.
Yeah. Well, of the Wall Street financiers putting pressure on the upstairs bean counters and executives who are these guys making millions and billions. Okay, well, it's 5:30. We should go. Again, I feel guilty because I haven't been watching the chat. I always feel like I'm leaving people behind if I don't answer every single question, but I can't do that. But was there anything else you saw popping out that would be a good thing to go out on? I don't.
It's a good question.
I think Michelle Hurd just entered into the the history of fan lore with her being there for us to speak up to not that they didn't care, but I just think it was. I think it was off their radar.
I did see someone when I was talking about her career, someone mentioning, I looked her up. She was on Another World, and she played Assistant District Attorney Dana Kramer. And I noticed her from her first arrival. I was like, I love that woman. So she's
powerful women, right?
Career worth following the whole way. She's incredible in everything she's in. Yeah.
Anyway, well, Laurie, but I don't think we've ever had a thing together.
No, we've
never let us loose like this. So
I mean, I'm sorry Kayla couldn't be here. She was supposed to be. I did my best to fill in, but that was really fun.
No, what do you mean fill in? You did the job, girl. What do you mean? You were there. They were there.
I'm fresh back from vacation, so I'm all I don't know what's going on.
How are you fresh? How are the words fresh and back from vacation a thing?
Well, it was a working vacation, but
yeah, because I was the same way too.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody, I love you all so much in the chat. I'm sorry I have not been paying attention here, but we had I knew we would have a good conversation because we've got stuff. Sadly, but we had stuff to talk about with all the situations. So if you're going to STLV, please look us all up. Laurie, are you floating constantly? Do you have a home base at all? Or
we don't have a home base, but we're always walking around. I'm always wearing some Star Trek shirt. Oh wait, that doesn't narrow it down. But I'll try. I got an all access shirt, which I'll try to wear at least once. But we're just around. The Trek movie team is around always.
Okay. Well, the Trekland. Actually, I have a team now. I have Scott. I have Kyle. I think the guys that are doing Scott's assistant. Kyle's editing a lot of my videos that have gotten my second opinion. Everybody watch Second Opinion when there's a fresh episode. I do it after the wave of reactions happens. So mine usually come out on Saturday, Sunday. And of course, I'll have a booth. We'll have the things. We'll be announcing all of our schedules when all this gets settled. But landing party is 9 to 11 on Wednesday night. I can start you there and we'll jump in. So
and we'll all be there. So
we'll all be
see you there, folks. And thank you so much, everyone who came to this. I'm shocked to see all so much chatter and excitement. I love it.
to see fanning going on.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Thanks again to Ryan and Sirach and everybody on Seventh Rule and Virtual Trek for having us do this and the day. And
Thanks.
we'll, if you haven't already cut out, we'll let you cut out. So, and Laurie, we'll see you soon too.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. Trek well.